All right, welcome back to Bayou Time. And as always, some of these segments are unavoidable on Bayou Time, but we always have, as a station, brought you not only reports of fatal accidents, but we always try to look for the reason. We try to get you information of how it may be avoidable. Some of these accidents cannot be avoided. You have malfunction of a vehicle, wheel comes off, blowout, different things of that nature. Other parts of these crashes can be avoided. So we're very pleased, as always, to have Trooper Ross Brennan. Always good to see you, and under tough circumstances a lot of times. And a lot of times you bring us good news. In this case, on the Easter holidays, we had some tragedies, and certainly more than one, right?
Yeah, we kind of had a little bit of a busy Easter holiday between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. So I guess to start it off with, there was actually a fatal crash that occurred on April 3rd. In that crash, there was a wrong-way driver traveling down Highway 90, and she struck another vehicle head-on. The driver of the vehicle that she struck, he died at the scene, but there was a passenger that was transported with serious injuries to a New Orleans area hospital. Well, Troop C was notified Friday by the Terrebonne Parish coroner that passenger ended up succumbing to their injuries. It should be noted also that they both weren't wearing a seatbelt. The two occupants in that vehicle that was struck head-on, they weren't wearing a seatbelt. That contributed to a lot of their injuries. The driver, who was driving the wrong way, she was found to be impaired. She was arrested, and as of now, she's sitting at the Terrebonne Parish Jail with the charge of vehicular homicide and also vehicular negligent injury, which is pretty safe to say the DA's office is probably going to upgrade that charge to 2 counts of vehicular homicide whenever the court proceeding starts to happen. That was the first kind of update that we had, but then we also had a fatal crash that happened on Friday, also Good Friday. The first one happened around 4 p.m. on Highway 311. There was a vehicle that was traveling northbound, and it just went off the roadway and struck a tree. And the driver of that vehicle, he didn't survive the crash, even though he was wearing a seatbelt. But there was witnesses that it might possibly be a medical situation that caused the crash to happen. Of course, we're still waiting on the autopsy results and the coroner's determination, but it might have been a prior medical condition that kind of contributed to that crash happening. And then a little bit later on that same day, on Friday around 11 p.m., there was another fatal crash that happened on U.S. Highway 90 in Des Allemands. There was a motorcycle rider from New Iberia. He was traveling eastbound in the westbound lanes of Highway 90, and he struck another vehicle that was going the correct way head-on also. And, of course, the motorcycle driver, he didn't survive the crash. He died at the scene. Then the driver of the pickup truck, he had just had minor injuries and was transported. And in both those crashes that happened on Friday, we're still waiting on autopsy results to see if impairment may be a factor or not, as with all fatal crashes that we investigate.
And I'm hearing 2 of the accidents, and I'm hearing you loud and clear that drivers were in the wrong lanes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not trying to make light of any situation, but it seems to me, what makes someone completely go over into another lane? Are they that impaired where they just can't decipher?
Well, we kind of had a couple beginning in around November. We had another fatal crash, a wrong-way driver right on Highway 90 by the Troop, and in that crash, it was an impaired driver. And of course, the update, the one that happened on April 3rd, that was an impaired driver. And you got to kind of work hard to go the wrong way on Highway 90. And again, it's somebody who's impaired and making poor decisions, poor judgment, poor vision, and it's all a contributing, a factor in those crashes. Like I said, we're still waiting on the motorcycle to get a full idea of what actually happened, waiting on the report. But it's still yet to be determined.
And as we finish this segment, I want to also reiterate and sort of drive it home to the people watching, is that one bad mistake, you said a lady is in the jail, the charges may be upped at this point, but nonetheless, she's still in jail, and her whole life has changed because she made a bad choice.
Exactly. Somebody might think, oh, it's just the house is just down the road, I can make it, or it's not that big of a deal to them in that moment, but yet something happens, and like we're seeing now, this was a young girl in their 20s and made a poor choice, get behind the wheel, driving impaired, first offense DWI. First time that she's been caught driving impaired, but that's all it can take sometimes is that first time, and the whole life is now affected. You got 2 families that are mourning the loss of a loved one, and now you have basically a another family having to go through their loved one dealing with the court proceedings and stuff now, the consequences that come after it. So everybody in this situation, it's a lose, lose, lose. Everybody, there's no winning in any of these crashes.
You know, and as we close this segment, we'll come back, by the way, and talk another segment right after this. But I also often think of the troopers that have to come upon the scene. And like I said, we used to ride on the beat, and I've seen some horrific scenes. I mean, it's just, and once you see it, it does change you. It changed because reality is a tough thing sometimes, so they have to deal with it too.
Yeah, definitely with any type of a traumatic situation, right? I mean, the average person maybe experienced one or two their whole life, but first responders, we see it every day. And so it can take a toll on people, and you just gotta make sure you have the right avenues that you can talk to. We definitely have a good trooper assistance program where we have mentors and like guidance counselor type people that we can talk to if it does start to affect, a trooper or somebody involved with our personnel. But yeah, it's definitely, in addition to the family stuff, it takes its toll on the first responders too, whether it's fire department, EMS, police, sheriff, PD, all of us.
People making bad mistakes, but before the mistake is made, it was a bad judgment.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the line, maybe they're going to a birthday party, maybe they're going to a graduation party, maybe it's an anniversary party, and they tell their friends, I'm gonna tie one on today. That's fine. That's great, but they should have a plan, right?
Exactly. Yeah. And look, there's nothing wrong with going out and having a good time. It's just making the right choices after doing so. And look, before you even go out, if you plan to go to a birthday party, the weather's starting to be good. People are starting to have a lot more crawfish boils. There are going to be a lot more festivals. The Fireman's Fair is coming up, right? So we have all these different things that, South Louisiana would like that. We like to have a good time down here. But we just want people to make the right choices. So before you even go out, have a way that you're going to get home safely. If you do plan to take any type of alcohol intake or even drugs, right? Just have a ride home, have some type of way that you can get home before you even go out, because once the drinks start flowing, sometimes that judgment starts getting impaired a little bit, right? They start making some decisions that you wouldn't normally make. So at the end of the event or at the end of the party or wherever, that's not the time to be trying to figure out how you're going to get home. It's definitely before you even step foot out the door to go to that event.
And I've said it many times on this show, when we were teenagers, I don't know how we made it home sometimes. We go to back rows and look.
Yeah.
As a group, all of our friends who were in school, we often say that. We go, wow, but times changed, and Mothers Against Drunk Driving came about, and for a good reason. And I'm so proud of the younger generation. I hear them so many times say, because we, nieces and nephews always say, all right, y'all going drinking tonight? Who's driving? There's a designated driver. And that designated driver does not take a sip of alcohol.
Yeah.
That's willpower, but that's a good thing to hear.
Yeah, and we see a lot too. I mean, we'll have troopers that stop cars at night. We are looking for an impaired driver, but a lot of times if it's young people, there isn't a designated driver. And look, if you're going to be that designated driver, keep your word. Don't, even just one drink, just having one little thing of alcohol, it can already start to affect your judgment slightly. So if you are going to be the designated driver, definitely stick with it, make the right choice. But we are starting to see a lot more younger people, kind of, maybe it's because all these education programs that we're having now, and we're realizing how dangerous impaired driving is. I think people are starting to make the right choices.
Yeah, and y'all do a good job of getting out there, and people can't say y'all have not driven the point home.
Yeah, that's
the point's out there.
It's one thing we try to do in all the schools. I know y'all were at Assumption High School. Y'all filmed us. We had a mock crash out there, and basically show the students what can happen. Somebody making a poor choice, whether it's drinking and driving, and also driving distracted. We show a fatal crash. Somebody was killed. Somebody was seriously injured. And so we go through the whole thing between the crash, the arrest, going to the hospital, the coroner, the ambulance, like the whole, typically what would happen on a serious injury or a fatal crash.
And that's going to be on the next segment right after we finish up. But also, you have a big car seat check event coming up.
Yeah. So we're actually going to be having a car seat check event this Saturday, April 23rd, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's going to be at 6767 West Park Avenue. That's the West Park Climate Control Storage. It's a free event. Go ahead and, I mean, one of the leading factors in young people's, children's death is improperly installed car seat. So you definitely, that's not something you want to play around with. You definitely make sure it's installed properly, or make sure that they're in the right car seat for their age. So you can come on down. I'll be out there along with some others. I'll just be freshly trained how to install a car seat. So that's actually our, the more people we have out there, the more we can get more training, and the better, taught that the new instructors will be.
Yeah,
So,
and as my nieces and nephews and everyone was leaving Easter Sunday at my mom's house, I was watching them strap the kids in, and there's proper ways to do it and improper ways to do it, and so you got to learn the proper way, right?
there's a lot between strapping the actual car seat into the car seat itself, with all the seat belts and the anchor points, to making sure that the harness is right on the kid's body. It's a lot of factors that goes along with it, and it's a little bit more than just pulling it out the box and setting it up. So definitely, like I said, it's not something you want to play around with, especially having your most prized possession riding in the back of the car. You definitely want to make sure that it's going to be safe in the event of a crash.
And we got to tell people, I've stopped by cars before, and I know you have, and I know it's different when you do, but I'll see someone with their child holding them in the passenger seat without a seatbelt on, in the front seat of the car, and I motion them, I roll the window down and go, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Now, I can't get out and arrest them or do different things you can, but
Yeah.
it just baffles me that I see that.
Yeah,
You know?
and again, people don't think. They think it's just down the road, nothing bad can happen, but you never know whenever a crash might occur. And even a slow speed crash, you can be going 30 miles an hour. If you're thinking that you're going to hold on to that kid that weighs about 50, 40, 60 pounds or whatever it is, you're not going to be able to hold on to it, just because the dynamics of the crash, the forces, it's going to be way more than you can be able to control. Unfortunately, that poor kid who probably doesn't even know what's going on, innocent, is going to be the victim in that crash, getting thrown forward, sometimes through the windshield, or maybe if they're riding in the back seat, they're thrown forward into the dash, or whatever it is. It's just, it's definitely, make sure your kid's in the right car seat. There's avenues, if you're in need of a car seat, if you can't afford one, you can go ahead and call the troop. We have some avenues that I can direct you to see about getting a car seat, but that's typically somebody financially who's struggling to afford one.
All right, there you have it. Trooper Ross Brennan, Troop C. And we appreciate him always coming on and enlightening us on the different things that are happening here in the area. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with more.